Hi, my name is Femi, and I'll be doing the AP question for our quideo. So the question says, when a tractor pulls a plow through an agricultural field, the energy needed to pull that plow is called a draft. The draft is affected by environmental conditions such as soil type, terrain, and moisture. So those are important. Keep that in your mind. A study was conducted to determine whether a newly developed hitch would be able to reduce draft compared to the standard hitch. A hitch is used to connect the plow to the tractor. 2 large plots of land were used in the study. It was randomly determined which plot was to be plowed using the standard hitch. So we can underline that. Randomly determined. As the tractor plowed the plot, a measurement device on the tractor automatically recorded the draft at 25 randomly selected points in the plot. After the plot was plowed, the hitch was changed from the standard one to the new one, a process that takes a substantial amount of time. Then the second plot was plowed using the new hitch. 25 measurements of draft were also recorded at randomly selected points in this plot. A. What was the response variable in the study? Identify the treatments, and what were the experimental units? Okay, so to answer these questions, we need to know what each of them are asking. So response variable, what's that? Basically, that's the y in your equation. That's what you're trying to figure out. And in this case, it's the amount of draft. The treatments are the factors. And in this case, it's the standard hitch and the newly developed hitch, because those are the two things that change the data. And what were the experimental units? Experimental units are basically what's being tested. And in this case, it's the 2 plots of land. B. Given that the goal of the study is to determine whether a newly developed hitch reduces draft compared to the standard hitch, was randomization used properly in the study? Justify your answer. So, yes, these 2 plots of land were randomly selected and assigned randomly. This tells us that these 2 plots were randomized and it was used properly in the study. C. Given that the goal of the study is to determine whether a newly developed hitch reduces draft compared to the standard hitch, was replication used properly in this study? Justify your answer. No, it was not used. It was not used properly in this study because the two hitches were not tested in the same place. So one of them was tested somewhere else, and the other one was tested somewhere else. So the 2 places that were being tested were not the same, which meant that this wasn't replication because the 2 plots of land could be different from each other, which could throw off your data. D. Plow of data is a confounding variable in this experiment. Explain why. So referring back to C, we said that this wasn't replication. Why? Because the 2 plots of land could be different. As we underlined in the question, the draft is affected by the environmental conditions such as soil type, terrain, and moisture. So the 2 plots of land aren't exactly 100% alike. So they could have different soil types, and they could be in a different place, and the moisture could be different. So these are confounding variables. So you don't know what affects it. So concluding from that, you could say that the amount of draft could be could not be determined because the hitch or the plot could be the confounding variable. So you're not sure whether if it was the plot that was good or the hitch that was good, because a good plot could mean that the bad hitch did better because the plot was better. I know that sounds confusing, but just think about it. Just because the result was good doesn't mean that there were confounding variables that could ultimately mess up your data. And in this case, it could, because the plot could be better for one hitch. That could mean that the new hitch isn't necessarily good. So the important thing to learn is to watch out for confounding variables. Thank you very much.